Welcome back to a timey-wimey pod where we watch every episode of Doctor Who from 2005 onwards. My name's Rebecca,
I'm Haley.
and today we are sadly discussing Doomsday, and we're not happy about it. We don't want to be here.
No, we don't. You guys have no idea the amount of texts we sent to each other about how to not have to talk about Doomsday on our podcast.
Yeah. It's really sad for us because half of the reason we did this podcast, if we're honest, is just so we could talk about Rose Tyler. And now we don't
Mhm.
get to talk about her as much because she's not going to be around.
She'll be around because we'll bring her up, but like on the show, she won't be around, and that's painful.
There's still a lot of good stuff to come, but we are in mourning today for many reasons. Are you ready for some fantastic facts?
I guess so.
So this episode aired July 8th, 2006. It was written by Russell T Davies and directed by Graham Harper. When Murray Gold pitched the Doomsday track idea to production, he described the track as representing Rose's unbridled energy and determination as she looks to get back to the Doctor. And on Doctor Who Confidential, he said, I wanted to get that kind of throbbing, sort of hurt sound of quite emotional rock because I thought that's what Rose would do if she was hurting and ran up to her bedroom and locked herself in her room and had a good old cry.
Well, Murray Gold, you cooked and you made that a reality for us all because Doomsday is painful but iconic and really great.
Yeah, it really changed everything. And that track is part of the reason why we now get the soundtracks because like a bunch of people wrote into the BBC and were like, I need this track. And so then they released the soundtrack.
Really? I had no idea. That's crazy.
The cyber leader, who is played by Paul Casey in this episode, he's been in a lot of Doctor Who episodes and he's been in Sarah Jane Adventures in Torchwood. He has played an Auton, a Clockwork Droid, a Ood, the Wooden Queen, a Time Zombie, a Pig Slave, Slitheen, and nephew in The Doctor's Wife.
That's actually really cool that he's been able to play so many different aliens throughout the show's history.
I know, I never knew that he did so much, but kind of iconic. Now, the scene where Rose is about to fall into the void, but then Pete comes to catch her, there was some debate on who should be the one that grabs her before she goes into the void. Julie Gardner wanted it to be Pete to kind of show that he was coming to terms with her being his kind of pseudo daughter, but Phil Collinson argued that it should be Mickey.
Julie Gardner, thank you for your service because if it had
Mhm.
been me, I would have been even more pissed about the ending of this episode.
I know. I really like that it's Pete. I'm glad it's not Mickey.
Me too. And I mean, Mickey, we'll talk about this more. He's really grown as a character and I like him at this point.
Oh, yeah.
But like I said, I would be really mad if he was one to catch Rose. I think Pete catching Rose was the right call.
Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, it's time to jump into the episode. I really love the beginning when Rose just yells, Dalek! at the Daleks.
It's such an iconic line too. Like she yells it and she means it. And she's
Mhm.
so fearless about it too.
Oh, yeah. She takes off her coat. She's taking charge. She's so brave. Like we've said, literally since our very first episode. It's
Mhm.
iconic.
And the way that she tells the Daleks, she knows what the Daleks are capable of. And she tells them, you know, I know all about the Time War and I know all about you guys, the human knowing all of this. Keep us alive and find out how we know all of this. And it's just
Mhm.
such like a quick thinking move. And you really see, I feel like you see the Doctor come out in her a little bit in this scene.
Oh, definitely. Throughout this whole episode, really.
Mm-hmm. And we have the Dalek Genesis arc, which we mentioned this in last week's episode when we talked about Army of Ghosts. We both have Doomsday amnesia.
Mhm.
And honestly, for me, it's more so this episode than Army of Ghosts
Yeah.
because watching this episode, I literally, except for the end, could not tell you anything except for like the biggest parts. And again, I forgot about the Genesis arc completely. I'm like, how that's such a big plot in this
I
episode.
know, I do forget that it is kind of like a big thing. Like, I remember that scene where it's like in the sky and all the Daleks are coming out, but I
Mm-hmm.
forget about like how big of a deal it is and that they're trying to figure out what it is. But I love the thing
Yeah.
about it being Time Lord technology. Like, that's always like such a gag. It's like, oh my gosh.
I know. Like, are the Time Lords and the Daleks working together? But no. The Genesis arc is basically a Dalek jail. It's bigger on the inside, which, like you mentioned, I do remember like the scene of the Genesis arc in the sky with all the Daleks flying out. That is like traumatically forever imprinted on my brain. I don't know about
Hmm.
you.
Yeah, same. I don't know why. I just always vision them like, oh, coming out one by one, like super quickly. It's spooky.
It is spooky. And like you said, I'm like the same way with the Genesis arc, where I remember that scene, but I don't remember the whole thing of them trying to figure out what it is.
I love the Dalek and Cybermen sass off that we get in this episode.
It's great. I love it so much.
It's actually so funny and the writing is
Mm-hmm.
really it's so good. I love it. Um this this is pest control.
Yes.
The Cyberman says, and then the Dalek says you are superior in one way only. You are better at dying. The sass, it's so good.
They really do roast each other really well in this episode.
Hmm. I love when Rose sees 10 on the screen for a moment while they
Mm-hmm.
like have the video up, whatever. And the Daleks are like, the human female's heartbeat increased. And Mickey's like, yeah, tell me about it.
No, it's so great. And watching this, I noticed kind of a parallel
Oh, do
in this
tell.
scene. So, you know how at the end of Bad Wolf in series one, where Rose is stuck on the Dalek ship and on the screen she's watching Nine say, I'm going to wipe out every last stinking Dalek, and Rose, I'm coming to save you. Versus in this episode, Doomsday, she is again with the Daleks, again with the screen, but this time the Doctor's not coming to save her. She's witnessing the Cybermen and Daleks who are going to lead to her demise at the end of this episode.
Ooh, I do love that. What do you think about 10 promising Jackie that he's going to get them both out of there?
I feel like in every TV show or movie, when this happens, we know one of two things are going to happen at the end of the episode or movie. One of the characters are going to die. Or two, they will get stuck in a parallel universe.
And like he does get them out, but not exactly what they had in mind.
No. And I feel so bad for Jackie too in that moment because she's so
Mhm.
worried about Rose and she's literally like being held hostage by the Cybermen. And it's just such a sad scene. And she's like being dragged away from the doctor.
Oh, I know. I love when she and Yvonne are about to be turned into Cybermen, and she yells at Yvonne, "This is your fault. You and your Torchwood. You killed us all." Like, that line is just so good. She delivers it so well. I'm obsessed.
Me too. And honestly, she was right for that.
She was. We hate you, Torchwood. You ruined everything. You
You
killed
really
us
did.
all.
We're all dead inside because of you. Also, when Yvonne is marched to become a Cyberman, and all you hear her say is, I did my duty for Queen and Country, as much as I dislike her, like, I think she's a great villain, but at the same time, I dislike her and dislike Torchwood. It's so really sad to hear her say that and just like shrug the Cyberman away as she just walks in to become a Cyberman.
Yeah, I do feel bad for her. She kind of makes up for it later, kind of.
She does, kind of. You're right.
I love that moment between 10 and the Cybermen when the Cybermen's like, you are proof that
Mm.
emotions destroy you. And 10's like, yeah, I am. But, I really like Hope. And then we see the team from Pete's World come in.
Honestly, I love that scene so much. I love them coming through and coming to help. And seeing Jake, I don't know why, I just really like Jake as a side, like, reoccurring character. And I find it interesting also when Jake takes 10 back to Pete's world and 10 meets Pete again.
Yeah, that is a really good scene, and we get to see their version of Torchwood, and we find out it's been 3 years since we left Mickey behind in Rise of the Cybermen, which is kinda crazy.
I know. The time in Pete's world is so wacky. It's just another thing that I have against Pete's world.
Yeah, me too. Oh, that is weird. Okay, anyways, and then we find out that the Cybermen were kind of taking over their Torchwood, and one day they just disappeared, and they followed the Cybermen into our world or the Doctor's world, but that the breach is kind of killing Pete's world.
Yeah, because of the breach, Pete's world is basically boiling and it's going to get destroyed, and there's a lot of damage already to the world. And Pete wants the Doctor to close the breach. The way he talks to the Doctor about it, he's like, honestly, like, I don't care if the Cybermen are sealed off into your world. I'm just concerned with this world, Pete's world, and making sure that everything's okay. Whatever's going on in your world, you can deal with. And 10 gets very petty in response to
Mhm.
Pete. He's like, Pete Tyler.
I knew you would and you were dead.
Mm-hmm. And then he brings up Jackie and how she's in like the OG world. And it's a little messy, but I can understand 10 and I can also understand Pete. But I do
Mhm.
love when 10 has the moment of like, you think I can, get rid of the Cybermen and Daleks and close the breach? Let's do it. And they hop on back over to the OG universe.
Mhm.
Also, by the way, something I forgot to mention at the beginning of this whole thing, the Doctor was like freaking out and basically being like, we can't travel between parallel worlds because every time that happens, a hole is created in the universe. And he gets like really mad about the whole thing and is using the 3D glasses a lot. And he explains in this episode the 3D glasses show the void stuff, basically, like background radiation from traveling between the two worlds.
10 kind of plays a little bit of a matchmaker here between
Mm-hmm.
Pete and Jackie. He's supporting it.
He is supporting it.
And he even mentions about he talks about Rose and he's like, she's your daughter. Like, didn't Mickey tell you? Which is kind of crazy since in Rise of the Cybermen Age of Steel, he kept going on like, that's not your father, that's not your mother, like that's not your and like what's with the switch up all of a sudden?
Honestly, I think he had a suspicion that
Mhm.
things weren't going to end well
Yeah.
at the resolution of all of this. And I think he wanted to make sure that Jackie was happy and Pete was happy. And I think he was also using it to his advantage because he knew if Pete liked the idea of Jackie in the OG world, Pete would be more likely to support the Doctor in fixing both worlds, not just Pete's world.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. I think this is kind of where he knew that he was going to have to close the breach and they were all either going to have to go to Pete's world or get sucked into the void.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. A quick moment that we skipped over that I just think is really kind of funny is Pete tells 10 that the president of Pete's world is Harriet Jones. And 10 says, I'd watch out for her. And honestly, 10, shut up, okay? We
Shut
had this
up.
discussion on the Christmas invasion. They were both wrong for what they did, but stop soiling her good name, 10.
And once
Please.
again, they're like, it's the golden age. Because of Miss Harriet Jones. Thank you very
Mm
much.
hmm. Mm hmm. I mean, yeah, the world is like melting because of the breach, but like that's not her fault.
Yeah, she has nothing to do with that.
Mm-mm.
It would be kind of cool to meet alternate universe Harriet Jones.
It would. I'm so interested actually in like what she would be like.
I wonder if she shows up in like any of the Big Finish Dimension canon audios.
That's actually a great point.
Okay, I need to talk about one of the most iconic Rose Tyler scenes of the show.
Ooh, do tell.
It's when she's talking to the Dalek, and she's like,
Mm-hmm.
"I knew the Emperor. Do you want to know what happened to him?" And the Dalek's like, "The Emperor survived." And she's like, "Well, until he met me." And then she like talks about how she turned the Emperor to dust, slammed the time vortex in his mind, and then she laughs in the Dalek's face, and it's iconic. It's so good. Just the way she laughs in the Dalek's face, I'm obsessed.
She's so iconic for that. Like, she will forever be iconic. Like, who says that to the Daleks, knowing all of that? And like,
No,
I love her so much for it. But we find out, I like completely forgot, this is like the first appearance. I don't know if they appeared in Classic Who, but in New Who, it's the first appearance of the Cult of Skaro.
it sure is. I like always forget that we see them again.
I know, me too. We also need to talk about the iconic Jackie staircase scene with
Yes.
Tin on the phone with her.
It's
It's
so
so
good.
funny. It's so good. And I love how Tin is like, Jackie, where are you? And all she says is, I see a fire extinguisher. And he's like, that's really helpful.
Mhm. I could just watch hours of Jackie Tyler. I love her so much.
Mm-hmm.
She's hilarious. I miss her already and I want her back.
Me too. Oh my gosh. Another Jackie Tyler moment I love in this episode happens more towards the beginning. It's when Tin calls Rose at the beginning of this episode and she answers. This is when she's with the Daleks. And he says she's alive, but why haven't they killed her? And Jackie says, well, don't complain.
I know. I love that. And she's right.
She really is. And I love her and Tin interacting. They are such in-law vibes.
Okay, we need to talk about the Pete and Jackie reunion because it's
Mm-hmm.
one of the best scenes. It's so good.
It's so good.
I just love how Pete kills the Cybermen and then Jackie's reaction. She's like, "That's not fair. I knew there were ghosts, but why him?" And like it's so sad. And Rose's face in the background, she just like is so shocked, and she can't believe this is happening, and that like a version of her parents are reuniting. And I can't imagine how she feels in that moment. And they just kind of like talk, and Ten rattles on explaining about how he's from a parallel world and all that. And there's a line I really loved. She just says, "You look older." And it made me think about how she never saw like an older version of her Pete because Pete died when they were really young.
Stop. I didn't even think of that. You're right.
I know. Like, oh, it made me really emotional. And then of course we get the iconic "I'm rich." How rich? I
How
don't care about
rich?
all any of that.
But no, really, how rich?
Yeah.
Very. How very. It's great. I love it.
I don't care.
And I love when Jackie tells Pete there was no one else. And all you
And
see in the
Mickey's
background is
face.
Mickey's face.
No, it's so good.
It's so hilarious. And then they
Mhm.
just run to each other.
I know. At first, like Pete saying, "You're not my Jackie. I'm not your Pete," and then
Mm-hmm.
they just kind of like give up. And I just love it. They just let go of all the reasons why it's wrong and why it shouldn't work and why they shouldn't be together. And they kind of just choose to take that second chance and be with each other. And I really love that moment. And you can tell later on, like, as soon as that happened, Pete's not letting her go again.
I know. I love it so much. And I mean, when you think about it, it is kind of a little weird. Like, I'm not going to
Yeah.
lie.
And like different lives too. Like Jackie
Yeah,
even said like she's still in that flat, and Pete has this whole mansion. So
I
I
know.
I need the sitcom that's Jackie and Pete and Pete's world just kind of like trying to figure it out, because they both lost like each other and now they're like, this is such a different version of Pete. This Pete's like has more money, is more successful, is a lot like I need a sitcom immediately.
No, you're so right. We need a sitcom. We need to know like the trajectory of their relationship after
Mhm.
this.
I mean, they did not waste any time getting that baby. 3
No,
months
they
and
didn't.
she was already pregnant.
I wrote in my notes that all of this is Mickey's fault because Rebecca, you had a theory in the Rise of Cybermen Age of Steel when Mickey had his hands on the thing in the charges for like 30 minutes. That's what made them land in the parallel universe. And then in this episode, he falls and then puts his hand on the Genesis Arc and it opens it up. So, Mickey.
Yeah, though the doctor does say he kind of did them a favor because the Daleks would have done anything. Would have destroyed the sun to get that thing open. So
Oh,
it
I
was going to
know.
happen. But I know. And Mickey does feel bad, you can tell. So I don't want to
Yeah.
drag on him too much. But
No, but
we get a Dalek flashback in this episode, which is nice.
we do from Dalek in season 1 and completely forgot that was even in here.
Me too. I know a Dalek hates to see Rose Tyler coming.
For real.
She's gonna take them down. Okay, this is where everything kind of starts to change because Pete knows that, or the doctor starts talking about the void energy, and we realize what the 3D glasses are for. We kind of already talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
And Pete is like trying to get Jackie to go to his world. And oh, I just love this moment where 10 is, running around doing things, talking a mile a minute. But Rose is talking about how they have to go and get stuck in the parallel universe forever. And he's just like, yeah. And you can tell he can't really face it. And he's not, like, he just can't talk about it. And Rose is just kind of left standing there taking all this in. And it's so painful.
And when Rose tells Jackie that, Mom, I made my choice a long time ago. I've spent the first 19 years of my life with you. I'm not leaving the doctor. He has no one, so I'm going to stay with him. And the way that basically was her declaration of love to the doctor before
I
her love to
know.
the before her love declaration at the end of this episode.
And she talks about how he's done all these things for her and them and the whole planet,
Mm-hmm.
and how he's had to do it all on his own, and now she has him. And it just goes back to what we've been saying with how Rose just, she sees the doctor as someone who's been alone for so long, and he doesn't really have anyone, and she wants to be there. She wants to be that person so he doesn't have to go through all of it alone.
Completely. And I do feel really bad for Jackie in this moment because she is just like
Mhm.
distraught, as any mother would be, about
Oh
Rose.
yeah.
And Pete just puts on the yellow button around her neck, and then we see in the background of Rose that 10 walks over to her and puts it on Rose's neck.
Mhm. Like his face is dead inside. Like it's so sad. Like, you can tell like he just hates that he has to do that.
Oh, completely. And I hate to have to watch that. He did that.
Me too. But I love how immediately Rose is like, no, not again. He's not doing that to me
Mhm.
again. And she goes right back again to her world. And then we have this moment that I really, really love. And Ten grabs her and he's like, your own mother. You're never going to be able to see her again. And Rose just calmly says, I made my choice a long time ago and I'm never going to leave you. And that is really her declaration of love right there. Like she's made her choice. She has, like, of course, like leaving Jackie is going to be hard and painful, but she's made her decision and she knows what she wants. She knows she wants to stay with the doctor.
Yeah, and I have this Reddit comment that I feel like summed it up really well.
Ooh. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, this was made 11 years ago in the Doctor Who subreddit by the user Leo7, and they said, like Rose said, she made her choice a long time ago when she left with him. Leaving with a doctor is essentially giving up your family because, as we've seen, the TARDIS can't always bring you back to the right time, and the doctor's adventures could cause your death. Plus, you could travel for years without seeing your family again. So you might say, how could she not go to Pete's World? But then you'd have to say, how could she leave with a doctor at all?
Ugh, it's so painful, and it just shows how much she really loves him.
And when the doctor accepts that she's staying, they go back. They have
Hmm.
their bit where they're shiver and shake.
And then we just get one of the most like horrifying, gut wrenching scenes ever as they have to hold on for dear life while everything is getting sucked into the void and they're trying to pull in, and then that freaking lever has to come undone.
Also, when she pushed the lever back, the system said locked. So was it not locked before and she thought it was?
Yeah, I think I don't think she pushed it up all the way the first time.
The stupid lever. It's
I
so
know.
stupid. That stupid thing. The clamps they were holding onto, how it was Rose who had to go to fix the lever and push it back up as she's almost being like sucked into the void. Like she was so close to being
Hmm.
sucked into the void doing that. Then she locks it and she starts trying to move to get back to the clamp.
And David's acting in the scene is so good. Like his face, we never see the doctor this horrified and frightened,
Mm-mm.
and he looks sick and he's so scared. And that moment when her hand slips, the way he screams and is like fighting and holding on to the clamp in his face, that is just so gut wrenching and so
And
raw.
the music at this
Mm.
moment and Rose's face where she's just terrified and 10 just know she's being sucked into the void and like he's going to lose her forever. But then Pete shows up. I still, all these years later, want to know, how did Pete know the
I
exact time to
know.
come
I
through?
It really bugs me, and it's one of those little like plot things that there's no answer to, and it's classic Russell, just very convenient finale writing. And I
Mm-hmm.
know it doesn't matter. I know. But it's like, how did he know to go jump in that exact moment? Why did he do that? Like, how did they not immediately get sucked into the void when like I know it's fine and it doesn't matter, but it bugs me.
Oh no, it bugs me too.
And this wall scene, like I remember watching this for the first time and just like the music here is so painful, and Billy's performance, like it's so real and believable, and you just know like she felt it, you can tell. And I love that
Mm-hmm.
moment where it's like for a second it's almost like Rose can feel the doctor on the other side of the wall, and they're just both there, faces pressed against the wall. And I feel like that's just one of those images that is seared into our collective minds like forever. Like
Yeah.
we everyone knows and remembers that image.
Yeah. I feel like everyone remembers the first time they watched it. Like it's just that painful and her screaming, take me back.
Oh, like I can hear her say that so well. And the parallel
Mm-hmm.
of her saying it then and then in Parting of the Ways when she's in the TARDIS and Nine sends her
Mm-hmm.
home and she's yelling, take me back. Oh, it absolutely kills me. And I hate it so much and love it at the same time.
Me too. And 10 walks away from the wall and he has no one. And Rose walks away from her wall and she has Jackie and Pete and Mickey. And it's just such a stark reminder that the doctor not only lost Rose, but he lost his family, who he had
Mhm.
Christmas dinner with.
Oh, I hate that.
And like he
I
loved them all. I mean, maybe not Mickey, but like he loved Jackie.
Yeah, he did. I love seeing Jackie like as they're all watching this. Jackie's holding Pete's hand, and then she's holding Mickey's hand, and you just know they're watching Rose and knowing that this is like so hard for her, and they're all gonna have to like come together and be there for her.
Definitely. And then the screen goes black, and we see Rose laying down in her bed in Pete's world. And then she's talking about a dream she had where all she heard was Rose.
I love that line where it's like anyone else wouldn't believe me, but they've seen the doctor and they know, and
Mm-hmm.
they all just get in that little Jeep kind of thing and make their way to that frickin' beach, Bad Wolf Bay.
Stupid beach that should not exist. I'm sorry.
I hate that beach, but also I really, really want to go to that beach one day.
Oh, that's what I was literally about to say. But she's so ready because she knows it's the doctor whispering her name. And she packs her bags.
I know.
And she's ready to say goodbye forever to Jackie and Pete and Mickey. And then she gets to the freaking Bad Wolf Bay beach and sees 10, but he's just an image.
And the fact that the doctor did all this, you know, he burned up his son just to say goodbye, and he found a way to like speak to her through a dream. Like he did all that just so he could say goodbye.
Rose is inconsolable, and she tells 10 that there's the 5 of them now. Jackie's having a baby.
They did not waste any time. It's only been 3 months. 10's face when he says, "You're not," like, oh, when he thinks Rose is pregnant, it's so good.
It is. And she's like, oh no. Collective sigh from everyone. Like, thank goodness.
I remember watching that and being like, no, the first time. And then I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. No, same. I'm like, if you tell me that she is pregnant with Mickey's child, I will not forgive Russell T Davies.
Oh my gosh.
And he's already on the thin ice.
I love how like simple and awkward the scene is, and how Rose, you know, I love how she says, I can't think of anything to say. Like, that is just so real. Like, imagine knowing you're having your last conversation with someone you love, and it is hard in those moments because we've both had to say goodbye to people we love, and it's like, what do you say? Like, how do you say all the things? The words are never quite right, and it's just so painful between these two.
I completely agree with you. Like, how can I sum up a lifetime worth of memories? Like, there's no way to sum that up, and there was no way for Rose to sum up any of it. And I think her response, telling him I love you, is honestly the natural human response, because it's the only thing you can say that conveys any depth like that.
I know. And I love that moment. Like, she can barely get the words out, and like, she stumbles over them at first, and it's so painful because you know these two love each other. We know as the audience that these two care for each other so much, but they've never said the words, and she's finally saying it here because there's nothing else left to say. And then
he says, and quite right too, Rose Tyler, and then he disappears because the time ran out. Coward. He had time to say I love you. Talk faster. You're burning up a sun to say goodbye. You know how long you have left. You're a freaking Time Lord. You know all about time. So, like, why? Why didn't you say I love you?
Yeah. I know they wrote it and they were kind of like, we don't know what he was going to say. He could have said anything. We know what he was going to say. Okay, there was only one actual response to what she said. Let's be so for real for a minute. And like, just give them that moment. Like, you're already ripping these two characters away from each other forever. You can at least let him finish getting the words out.
Because we know the truth. We know he loves her. Like, Julie Gardner herself said so. The queen she is, she said after the fact that that's what he was going to say. He was going to say, I love you to Rose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you, Julie Garner. I do just want to mention Rose says she's working for Torchwood, and
Mm-hmm.
Ten looks so proud of her, and the way he says Rose Tyler, defender of the earth, like he's so proud of her, and I really think
Mm-hmm.
the only thing that keeps Ten going from here on and like through all of this is that she's alive, that she's safe. Like she's
I
alive and
agree.
safe. And if anything else happened, like I don't know what would have happened.
Yeah, I don't know either. It's just so heartbreaking to watch, especially just like that scene with him in the TARDIS crying.
Oh,
Like,
when we go back to the TARDIS and his face and he realizes he didn't get to say it and oh,
yeah,
it's so painful.
it's so incredibly painful. And I don't know what I was expecting the first time I watched the end of this episode. I know I wasn't expecting for someone in a wedding dress to pop up and for that to be who we later learn is Donna. We didn't know at the time, obviously, but like Donna is just at the end being like, what? Where
What?
am I? Who are you? What is this place?
No, imagine being a 13-year-old girl and sobbing your eyes out in the middle of the night over Doomsday, and then all of a sudden, Catherine Tate just pops up in the TARDIS in a wedding dress. And I do always love to see Donna. She really it makes me happy. It's like having a warm hug.
Yeah, I will say though, the first time I watched this episode, I remember I was honestly really mad because I'm like,
Oh,
how can
me
you end
too.
it on such a sad note with Rose and Ten and then just have this bride show up out of nowhere to throw it all
Yeah.
in Ten's face? But that was a 13-year-old version of me. We're like, now I love Donna and I'm excited to
Mhm.
talk more
Oh,
about
I'm
Donna.
so excited to talk about the Winter Ray Bride.
Me too. But this episode is just so incredibly painful and
Mhm.
hurts so much. And I
Yeah.
can't believe we actually got through talking about it because, like, I feel like we've said this nonstop throughout this episode, but like, this is an episode that has destroyed us for years and never fails to destroy us.
Oh yeah. I know for both of us, we kind of will sometimes skip this in our rewatches because it's
Yeah,
just too painful.
definitely. Yeah.
What is the heart of this episode?
I think the heart of this episode is that there's a really big lesson we learn from the Army of Ghosts in Doomsday. If there's a mysterious, huge energy source that you have to drill down to, like in the sand pit, or you have to build a freaking tower to get to, like an army of ghosts, maybe just like don't. Like maybe it's just not worth it to, like, I don't know, have Rose Tyler end up in a parallel world and unleash
Maybe
the
just
Daleks
leave it
and Cybermen.
alone.
Yeah. Also, if you see ghosts, just ignore it. Just ignore it.
Just ignore the ghost.
And also, if you stumble upon a parallel world, just don't leave the TARDIS in the first place, and nothing will be set up episodes before the finale.
Be like, guys, we cannot set things up. We have got to stay in the TARDIS. We are not setting up for the finale. Absolutely not.
Mm-mm. Nope, no finale here, guys. Just the
Nope.
Doctor and Rose traveling together forever.
Yeah. Um, the heart of this episode for me is that you should talk faster and tell
Mm-hmm.
people you love them when you love them. But like two times this series we had earlier in the Satan pit, Ten was like, if you see Rose, tell her. Oh, she know. No, she doesn't. Just tell her. You
Mm-mm.
just tell her.
If she knew it, you would be able to tell Doctor, so just tell her.
Mm-hmm. Who is the star of the show?
You know, I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say the star of the show is Rose Tyler because these are her last
Mm-hmm.
episodes, and I feel like I can't choose anyone else.
No, me either. Just for how she stands up to the Daleks and talks about how she turned the Emperor into dust, and then she laughs at the Dalek. She's the star of the show here, and Forever, and the song Silver Springs, You'll Never Get Away from the Sound of the Woman That Loved You, was actually written about Rose Tyler, despite it being written years before this episode was made. But it was written about Rose Tyler. Thank you very much.
It was written about Rose Tyler, and we've said it before and we'll say it again. Timey-wimey.
Timey-wimey. I mean, if anyone could write a song about something that happens in the future, it's Stevie Nicks. So,
You are correct. You're not wrong.
yeah. Do we have any reviews from the past?
We do, and they are both from IMDb. And sit tight for this first one. I'll
Oh, I'm
just say.
scared.
Okay. I'm going to paraphrase parts of this review because it's quite lengthy, but this was written by the user IRHughes-60024 on August 10th, 2015. And they said, to start off, I am a massive fan of Doctor Who, of new and old Who, but this episode for me just doesn't work. Even as a child, I didn't like this episode. The Dalek battle against the Cybermen, showing very cool scenes of drama and action, and how 4 Daleks can win against thousands of Cybermen. But other than the villains and the occasional good scene, the worst part is the relationship between Rose and the Doctor.
Uh, excuse me?
The Doctor is a Time Lord, a mighty race. And then there is Rose, a whining Cockney, sometimes arrogant girl. They have been building up on their relationship all series, and now they kick it in too much, as well as making everyone's emotions kick in. Why should the Doctor care so much about Rose? She's not exactly a Sarah Jane or an Ace. You may say they have a romantic interest in each other, then I say he shouldn't. And as Sylvester McCoy and Colin Baker once said in a documentary interview type thing, that the Doctor shouldn't be messing around and having a love interest with Earth girls. Cough, and he is 903, cough. And if you were to keep saying it's just love, then I would face palm. To conclude, this episode is meh. It has great action scenes and some good drama, but then there's just the whole relationship rubbish that gives it a 5 out of 10. But I do like series 2, well, the first half of it.
Okay, I have a lot to say. First off, I hate the idea that the Doctor's not allowed to have a love interest. Say what you want about the 900-year age gap, but I just hate the idea that, oh, this character or main character can never have love, never be in love. Like, why? For like, I just don't agree. Like, that's boring. Like, we want to see our favorite character, the character we've been following for 60 plus years, find happiness, at least, in little glimpses of it, in little moments. It when it's done right, when it's written well with characters I like, it's interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm always against that idea. Also, if you don't understand why the Doctor loves Rose, I don't think you were watching the first 2 series. Like, just go back to series 1 and watch how Rose and Nine care for each other and how they save each other in part of the ways. Like, I if you don't understand that this relationship, you don't understand the show and the Doctor and who the Doctor was after the Time War and how Rose brought him out of that.
She literally brought him back to life.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I just don't understand thinking that she's just, like, a whining girl, which, like, I hate that characterization of women in shows.
Yeah.
So, like, just don't do that. I disagree with this review completely.
Yeah, me too.
This other review I have, like I mentioned, is also from IMDb. It was written on July 9th, 2006 by the user Cassandra2006, and she said, loved and cried my way through this episode. Highly satisfactory all around. David Tennant is a truly magnificent actor and a superlative doctor, and Billy was just perfect in the angst of her closing scenes. And yes, if the Doctor were not such a gabby alien for whom dozens of words and a gobful of complex sentences are never enough, he would have said the 3 short little words, just 8 letters, that means so much. But his 2 minutes ran out before he was even part of the way there. And Rose is right. She's dead. Dead inside. Dead of grief, but dead all the same.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about that. The reason why we get the iconic "This is the story of how I
Story of
died"
how I
is
died.
because Rose is declared dead amongst the other victims of the Battle of Canary Wharf.
Yeah, and our girl is dead in the OG world, according to the history
Mhm.
books, which is really sad. Okay, like, I don't think parallel worlds are real in real life, but can you just imagine, like, you go missing and everyone is like, oh my gosh, this person is sad. That's so sad. But no, it turns out you're perfectly safe just in a parallel universe.
Dang, maybe that's where all the missing people go that we like never find again. Just
I
kidding.
wonder if I wonder if that's where all the like missing socks that disappear go.
I was thinking the same thing. There's definitely some things I've lost where I'm like, it's in another dimension. Like, it's
Oh,
gone.
yeah,
I don't know.
completely.
Anything else we need to discuss?
The doctor loves Rose, Rose loves the doctor, and he should have said I love you to Rose. And
Mhm.
that will forever haunt me that he didn't.
Yeah,
This episode is painful. I'm very proud of us for getting through it.
me too.
And Rose Tyler is an icon and a legend. And she went off against the Daleks more than once throughout her tenure on the show.
I love it. I the shock of watching this for the first time, because we get through series one and you kind of know like the doctor's going to change. You're not expecting it to happen that series, and you're not expecting
Mm-hmm.
it to happen that way, but then it does and you accept it, but you're not prepared. Nothing prepares you for when your first companion leaves.
Yeah, completely.
Well, we hate to say goodbye to our favorite duo, except we will be back next week to continue talking all about series
Mm-hmm.
2. We'll be doing our wrap up, ranking the series, talking about our favorite moments, favorite outfits, all that. So definitely listen to that because we love the wrap up episodes and they're always really fun.
They are. They're so fun to do. And I am looking forward to doing that. And at the next week, we can talk about our girl, Rose Tyler.
Mhm. And then after that, we'll be jumping into The Runaway Bride and somehow already jumping into series 3, which is so crazy.
It's wild. But as always, don't forget to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Timing by Me Pod.
And email us everything and anything. Email us anything and everything to timeywimeypod@gmail.com.
And don't forget to leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform.
And we will see you guys next week.
Bye, guys.